thank you for joining me. Can you do a quick introduction, tell us who you are and what you do at the SIA?
Yeah, so I'm Rachel Harwood-Stamper and I'm the Challenge Events Coordinator at SIA. So I support the individuals supporting us with all the weird and wonderful challenges that they set themselves. And also we have a portfolio of events that I manage, one of them being the Overseas Cycle that we're going to focus on today, but that's probably the biggest event that I run.
So that's what I was going to ask, was how did you get into organising charity bike rides? But of course, that's not, is it? So how did you get into doing what you do? And then I guess the bike ride will be part of that.
Yeah, so I've got an events background, and then I fell into fundraising events when I started working for a hospice. And I really found that that's my happy place because it just has so much impact and purpose. And I really started with a charity bike ride when I joined SIA. Mm-hmm. So I joined there in November 2023, and then I did my first bike ride in May 2024 when we went to Portugal last year.
So earlier you were saying that you were kind of thrown into last year's event. So you were thrown in the deep end. Can you give us an overview of what the event is and how it will look for me, probably?
So the ride's starting in Venice, and we're going to wiggle our way through northern Italy and end in Bologna, which is the birthplace of spaghetti bolognese, so that's a bonus. Each day, so we sort of start around sort of 7 o'clock with a breakfast, and then it'll be 6 to 8 hours of cycling. There'll be pit stops with hydration gels, water, snacks, all that sort of thing. There'll be a lunch stop, and then we'll get to the hotel early evening, and there'll be a group dinner, and then every day there's like a roundup where the cycle leaders kind of go over like funny things that have happened in the day. There's always a story to tell, and they're usually quite entertaining. And throughout the whole trip, really the group just really gels, and there's loads of camaraderie, and obviously there's like the social aspect as well. So whilst it is challenging, it's also enjoyable.
And how has this changed throughout the years of the event being held?
We're in the 11th year, so every year it's a roving event, so every year is a different destination, so it's kind of always evolving. We've sort of introduced event sponsorship, which has helped massively to reduce financial risk for SIA, so that's a new thing that was introduced about 3 years ago. And massive thanks to our sponsors because couldn't do it without them. So for the last 3 years, we've had JMW, Fletchers and CFG supporting the event. It's always evolving, to be honest. And I try and evaluate the event and listen to everybody's feedback to kind of shape it for the following year. Some of the best conversations are over breakfast.
So what goes into organising an event of this size?
Lots of people involved. So I work closely with a booking provider, and they also have a ground team that's local to the area that will speak the language and have loads of local knowledge. And really it's about relaying our accessibility needs, because what one person thinks of as accessible is completely different to what we think of as being accessible. So it's like relaying that and really making sure that the teams are aware of what we need as a group. It's just very logistical, so we couldn't do it without the booking provider that we work with. We also have a great committee, so made up of like lots of the riders that have been doing it for since the start, and with representation from our sponsors, and we just really assess the route and the suitability and everything together, and I take all of their thoughts on board as well, so they help with the planning.
And what are your main challenges when organising the event?
There's a few. You can never control the weather, so I feel like that's always something that can cause a danger to people with spinal cord injuries if it's really searing hot, which we had last year in Portugal, but that is completely out of our control. And again, just the fact that you speak to these hotels, they'll say, yes, it's accessible. You might get there and be faced with some challenges that you're not expecting, but we obviously deal with them as we go. And I think the nice thing about our group is it's very supportive. And if we get to a pit stop and there's a bit of a step like there was last year, then we deal with it and we help, and we all pitch in and we'll help carry that person over. It's just basically trusting in the ground team to do the site visits for you, whereas usually we'd go and do them ourselves. So that's quite a challenge.
And what are your goals for the event? So I assume you need to be able to fundraise a certain amount. So yeah, what do you need to get out of the event as a final product, I suppose?
Well, we raised 90k last year. We're hoping to raise closer to 100k because obviously it is quite a costly event. But yeah, really, it's about spreading awareness as well as the fundraising. Obviously, you've got 40 people taking part. They're then talking to their networks, and the word is spreading about SIA naturally. So we'll have loads of comms around the ride on our social media and stuff, so you can follow the journey, and you're getting to cycle alongside riders with spinal cord injuries and seeing firsthand like the things that they're actually faced with each day.
What does the fundraising from this event, how does that contribute to the SIA?
Well, so our challenge events sort of income channel, if you like, it brings in about 200,000 a year, with the cycle being like one of our biggest challenge events being sort of like 90 to 100k of that. So yeah, the money helps massively for our charity because for example, like £400 will help to fund a in-training session between our clinicians and a healthcare professionals team of healthcare professionals, and £260 will do 10 hours of counselling for somebody that's struggling with their mental health, coping with living with spinal cord injury. So you can just imagine how far that money's actually going to go.
So who's it for and who actually takes part in the event itself?
Yeah, so it's for anybody really. We have like mixed abilities, mixed ages, men and women. As I mentioned, we do have a couple of riders with spinal cord injuries. We had a couple of ladies last year that hadn't ridden a bike since they were teenagers. They didn't have all the fancy gear, but then you've got like your really avid cyclists that are out every weekend as well. So it's just, and anything in between. So, it really is for anybody.
Have you got any favourite stories or memories of the previous rides that you like to talk about?
My standout memory from last year was seeing Amanda Harris, who won a free place on the ride through a competition that we'd run, which was the Martin's Mountain competition. She was hugging her husband at the end of the ride, having just overcome, fears of not being able to complete the ride, and just that it was such a huge achievement. She had limited use of one of her legs, so she had a trike. But it was very hilly, very hot, as I was saying, and it was a monumental challenge for her. And just seeing her with Dean at the end, it was quite emotional. I think that's my standout memory. For Amanda, it was very, very challenging. But then for some of our really experienced riders, obviously it might not have been so much of a challenge. But I think as well, what we encourage people to do is, like, if you get to the pit stop really early and it was a breeze for you, loop back and go and help the people that are struggling, because that's what we want it to be all about. And we want to sort of like, make sure that everybody gets to the end. And we had that, last year. There was a lot of it was a good camaraderie. I've used that word, but I really do think that is a good word to sum up what our ride's all about.
Yeah, it's a community ride when you're out there, isn't it? Rather than a race. You're not trying to be the first person to the finish.
I think so, yeah. Everyone's there for their own personal reasons, and it is a challenge for each individual, and you're all sort of in your own sort of headspace in a way. But yeah, there's definitely like those moments where you need to pull together because some people are struggling more than others. And yeah, that was really nice to see. Yeah.
I think Peter also told us a story about how we got multiple punchers as well, and I think you talked about the ground team already, and they were there within a flash to help him with his bike and get him through. So not only do you not have to be an avid cyclist who's doing those rides every weekend, you don't need to fix a puncture either. So
no, so these guys are really experienced, and they help us to plan the routes. They provide a medic, a physio. They have a mechanic, it's completely safe, and you're well looked after. And if anything happens, you just wait, and then the person at the back will catch up with you. There's all support vehicles out on the ride following at all times as well, just making sure everybody's safe. And my role really when I'm out there as well, I'll be in one of the crew vans, and I've sort of been on a few rescue missions where someone's taken a wrong turn, and you can kind of like get a little bit split from the group. You're all obviously supposedly on the same route, but someone might do a few miles on their own until they've caught up with the others, and we had a few people take like a wrong turn, but we're right there. Obviously that's what we're there for, is to make sure everybody get them back on track. So
yeah, absolutely. I've seen fully organised waysigned events where people have still taken wrong turns. It's easily done because it's not a fixed circuit, is it? You're following public roads.
Bit of a wiggly route and everything. Yeah, public roads. But the roads tend to be quite quiet, which is quite nice because we are sort of wiggling through countryside. So, and also I think when the vehicles see like Gary on his recumbent bike, it's very close to the road. So I think people are quite respectful, and they give a good wide berth as well.
So the cycling element is obviously one of the challenges, and the other challenge is raising funds. So have you got any advice for best ways of being able to raise the funds that I need to raise individually?
Yeah, so the targets are quite high for the event just because it is a costly event, but so you sometimes have to go that little extra push. So obviously the first thing is like setting up your fundraising page and sharing it with your network, and you can tend to find that you'll get like 25 to 50% of the target that way, but there's also other things you can do. And if you haven't got time before the event, I always say to people as well, you can plan it in for just after the cycle. So if you want to plan a bake sale, a raffle, if you want to get a bit more creative, like we had someone put on like a party event where they had a DJ and some food and things like that, but they actually planned it for like July, so it took place after the cycle, because I appreciate you've got training, you've got your fundraising going on, so and life is lifing. We have families, we have jobs and everything. So, but hopefully you can sort of have a bit of fun with the fundraising as well, because it's quite so like a nice thing to do with your work friends, with your friends and family. So I can offer any inspiration, any ideas or tips with that. But I'd say get creative with it, get fun, have a bit of fun with it, really.
So what advice would you give to someone who is thinking about joining one of these challenges in the future?
I would say go for it, because if it's fear-based like worries that are holding you back, it could be that you have a spinal cord injury, that you're nervous about the travel, that you don't necessarily have an adapted bike to handle those things, and how much training's involved and all that sort of thing, or even equally for anybody that's feeling nervous about it. I can connect you with other riders that are very experienced. We've got our own Gary Dawson that's been doing it for 11 years, that has a spinal cord injury himself, and we have good connections. We might be able to help with finding somebody with an adaptive bike, or putting you in touch with the right companies, the right people. So there's lots of support along the way, and we have a WhatsApp group, connects you up to all the other riders as well. There's lots of support on the fundraising front, so don't let that put you off. We'd like to get the ride out a little bit earlier as well, to give people more time. So that's one of my personal aims, is to get the ride out earlier, and we're starting to look at destinations for 2026 as we speak. So we'll give you plenty of time for the fundraising.
If someone didn't want to do the challenge itself but still wanted to get involved, how could they do that?
So just if they wanted to donate and support the riders, we've got a Just Giving campaign page. We post on our social medias, so make sure you go to Facebook and Instagram and those platforms, LinkedIn, and our campaign page will be shared on there as well. But it's just sort of helping to spread the message, and if you can share a post, that's just as helpful. Just spreading the awareness, getting the word out there, really.
So we've already kind of said that the cycle event isn't the only event. What kind of other challenge events do you do?
So we have a team of runners entering the London Marathon. So we have 8 runners next year, and then whichever places are deferred over as well. So sadly, our places are being reduced by 20%. We did have 10 charity places, but it'll be 8 for next year. We'll be opening applications for those quite soon. We also have the Superhero Triathlon, so that's a third-party event, but we attend and enter an SIA team, and that's a really fun one. People dress as superheroes. The idea being that we're celebrating people that have disabilities, and that's from physical to mental disabilities throughout the event, and that's a very inclusive. All ages take part. Fun one, and you hear triathlon. It might freak some people out, but the distances are shortened, and there's a lot of it's very inclusive. That if you need like adapted equipment or whatever, it's all completely welcomed. And then we also have a new one for this year, which is abseiling and canoeing in the Peak District in September. So it's brand new for this year. And that's a one-day thing. So you go canoeing, you have lunch, and then you do a 90-foot abseil over a viaduct bridge for those that are feeling brave enough.
Nice.
And that's the 4 main events that I manage. But then of course there's a whole array of third-party events. If you did want to choose a swimming event, a cycle, or a run, or a trek, or whatever, and fundraise for us, then there's tons of options out there for challenge events. So I look after all of those individuals as well.
Rachel, thank you for coming in and talking to me about the SIA and the events today, and I'm really looking forward to it. I hope I can smash my fundraising targets, and I will see you in Italy in May.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Mike. It's been lovely. Yeah.